to Minister Fedeli and Associate Minister Tangri for being here. So it will not surprise you, I'm sure, that I'm going to be asking about the Wilmot Land Assembly. Because this pertains to vote item 902 and then 902-13. So you've indicated that there's a 144.3% change in economic development and investment, according to estimates. So my question pertains to this section is allocated towards the province's growth. If we want to focus on growth, it should be noted that according to the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, agriculture is one of the largest sectors in Ontario, generating more than $47 billion in economic activity every year and supporting 750,000 jobs, or about 10% of the province's workforce. So a lot of people don't know this, and I will also admit that my learning journey on this has been profound. In Wilmot Township, millions of dollars is being spent on buying hundreds of acres of farms for industrial purposes, with thousands more acres of prime farmland being targeted for unplanned development that was never part of the regional official plan or any municipal official plan for that matter. And so my question pertains to, is to you, Minister Fedeli. You did put out a statement about this issue. Why are farmers not being regarded as business owners when there is such a significant GDP contribution here? And how is the destruction of our local food sources helping Ontarians, which include Ontario's farmers and farming families?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the question. So my quick answer before my longer version is that we understand Ontario's farmland is very critical to the success not only of the agri-food industry, but to the success of the province and our entire economy. And that's why that we are taking a balanced approach to ensure the agri-food industry continues to thrive, as does the rest of the economy. We know that the agri-food sector has grown incredibly rapidly since we took office, and that's why they're at $50 billion added to our GDP every year, employing a million workers, exporting $26 billion worth of product. And we will always support our farmers and create those conditions for business in every sector to succeed.
Thank you. I'd like to reclaim my time. Thank you very much for that answer. I specifically, though, want to talk about Wilmot, Minister Fedeli. I mean, you and MPP Harris put out a statement saying that you were not supportive of the way that the region of Waterloo has conducted themselves with regards to the forced expropriation by hiring a third-party CanAcre to go to those farmers, offer them $35,000 an acre, and say to them that if they do not accept the $35,000, that their land would be expropriated. When you did put out your statement, it is of interest to me that the regional chair, and you actually, and I want to thank you for this, you did clarify that the province is funding the purchase. I will note that around 6 months ago when this issue first came up, I did note that the region of Waterloo had said they don't have the money to expropriate this farmland. So, and that was through their budget process. And you had said that while the province is supporting the region of Waterloo with funding, help because of the land, it is the sole responsibility of the region to assemble that. However, in response to your press release, Chair Redmond was very clear that said that she said it's disappointing to see recent events unfold from the government because the government was driving the process. You established the terms of reference with regards to the expropriation timelines. The region had asked for some additional time to meet with farmers. The government has said that, you know, you are not driving the process. The region of Waterloo, the chair there, has said, she said, this is a direct quote, "I'm surprised and confused because from the very beginning of this project, we worked in lockstep with the province as specifically around these 770 acres, which is roughly 311 hectares, Chair. You know, you'll understand this. because you've been in politics a long time. The people of Wilmot, the people of the region of Waterloo, there's been no public meeting about this expropriation or sale of this purchase of the 770 acres for the land assembly. There's been no transparency and really no accountability. As it stands right now, the region has purchased, with your assistance, about 160 acres at about $100,000 an acre. So we're looking at a substantive amount of money. Is that contained in the vote item on 902? Is that has the region already flowed the money to purchase this land? And because there is a need for us as politicians, as legislators, but also for the public at large to know why the government is pursuing this land purchase, given the fact that there is no identified purchaser for the property or anchor company, as has been described. There's been no transparency around how much money has flowed already. And there are competing stories here, right? The region says this is your process. You put out a press release with Mike Harris Jr. saying we do not support this process. So I just want to give you an opportunity to clarify for the people of Waterloo Region what actually is going on with regards to this massive industrial land assembly on Class 1 farmland.
Well, thank you. I look forward to answering. You have a lot of questions in there. I've written a couple of them down.
Sure.
It was kind of wide-reaching, but I do want to correct one thing.
Okay.
You had said the province set the expropriation timelines. That's absolutely false. That's just plain and simple. The province is not involved in setting an expropriation timeline. That was just something I wanted to clarify right off the bat. Now comes my longer answer. The short answer was exactly where I had ended. But I can tell you, you need to look at the why. Your last question is, why are you pursuing land? You know, in my first opening of 10 minutes, I talked about a couple of $1 billion being invested in Port Colborne, $1 billion being invested, almost $1 billion in Napanee, $4 billion from a Korean company, $15 billion going into Alliston and other areas. The list goes on and on. All the communities in Ontario understand that we are literally on fire in Ontario. We have more prospects than we have land that's readily available. And so Premier Ford put out a call to municipalities and said,
I'm sorry, we don't, what's going on? Are you okay? Okay.
Premier Ford put out a call to municipalities right across the province and said, you know, get your shovel-ready sites assembled. We need land. You want the jobs. And so municipalities all over Ontario began. So you asked why is the region pursuing land?
Because you asked them.
It's not the province pursuing the land purchase. It is the region. So the Premier asked all municipalities in a blanket statement, you see what we're doing? It could happen in your community.
Did you put any parameters on what that land should, did you is Class 1 farmland up for sale? Is that a part of your parameters of this deal?
I still have about 10 of your other questions to answer. I'll get to that.
Okay.
So again, there are more prospects who want to come to Ontario because this is the number one, as you've heard, the number one jurisdiction now in Canada. And so the Premier put out a call and said, get your shovel-ready sites assembled. It can be whether it's a municipality that owns it or whether there's businesses that own land that want to put that land available for smaller prospects as well.
So these are not willing partners, though? These are not willing farmers?
This is the municipality. The municipality has the option to come to the province and say, we would like some help on this site.
Okay.
And so we are supporting the region of Waterloo with funding to help purchase the land, period.
No expropriation. You did not indicate that you are supportive of expropriation.
Look at what we did at Volkswagen.
No, it's just say no.
But you have to look and see. I'll speak by example. Look across the highway at Volkswagen. We acquired 1,500 acres with zero expropriation.
So that is not what's happening, though, in Wilmot, though.
But
and with
this
respect,
is the sole
Chair,
responsibility, though, of the region.
and with respect, though, the chair of the region, Karen Redmond, and this is a direct quote, says the expropriation was an obligation in the partnership agreement they signed with the province. So they signed an agreement with you. And I'm just trying to get a sense of, if you don't have eyes on this deal, if you don't have hands on this deal, is there a deputy minister, is there an ADM that is directly dealing with this? Because the non-disclosure agreement that also the region tells us was a condition of your funding. And so this is what I'm trying to get to, the fact that, you know, this is out of character for the region. We have a long-standing tradition. We have a countryside line. I know the previous Minister of Municipal Affairs said someone took a crayon. No, it was done by planners. It was based on our capacity and sustainability around water and around the environment. And so I want to get a sense from you, Minister Fedeli. Did you insist that the region of Waterloo sign this NDA and also start with the expropriation mode, because this is a tale of two stories, actually. But at the end of the day, it's causing chaos for farmers in Waterloo region and Wilmot. And I just want you to answer clearly. Did you obligate the region of Waterloo to start with expropriation?
So between the deputy and I, we will answer your question. But again, I will point to an actual example. Across the highway.
I'm not interested in what's happening across the highway, with due respect, Minister Fedeli.
So what I'm trying to say to you, though, it's the same
Wilmot.
process.
It is not the same process. What happened across the highway was without contention. There was no conflict. In what's happening in Waterloo region right now, particularly in Wilmot, is that whether you admit it or whether you intended, the destabilization of farmers in that region, this is a real issue. And I know that you care about farmers. I know that you care about the GDP that these farmers are generating. But right now they are stalled, and they are fearful that the government will come in, take their land, and upset their family businesses, and also upset the economic development potential of Waterloo region. This is what's happening in my community, which is why I'm bringing it to you in this committee.
So why I refer to the one across the highway is because exactly the same scenario was presented to the region of Waterloo. It is their sole responsibility of the region to assemble the land. It is the sole responsibility to work collaboratively with all of the stakeholders. I look at our role much the same as any other infrastructure project in your community, a sewer and water project or a land acquisition. You know, the province funds these things, but the municipality, in your case, the region, does all of the work. So I'll ask the deputy to talk specifically to that.
My name is Jake Godot. I'm the Deputy Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade. And I would reiterate and echo the province is supporting the region of Waterloo with funding to help support the purchase of the land. And it's the responsibility of the region to assemble the site and work collaboratively through that process. It is, as the Minister said, no different than any other land assembly project the government supports across the province, and the same approach that was used for St. Thomas Land Assembly.
Okay, so thank you very much for that answer, but it is not the same, and that is my point. Deputy Minister. My point is that the region has said publicly now, in response to the joint statement that was put out by the Minister of Economic Development and the Minister of Red Tape, the local member, MPP Harris, that these terms and conditions were set by the province. In fact, I would say to you, and I would argue, and I would win the argument, that if the province is funding the project, then you have set the terms and conditions for this land assembly. Did you set out these terms and conditions for the region of Waterloo to go about one, initially trying to expropriate and now purchase 770 acres of Class 1 farmland for a large industrial land assembly. Did you set out these terms and conditions? That's the question. You're on.
You can speak in, it'll turn itself on.
Thank you. Again, just to reiterate, like, we are providing the region with funding to support the purchase of the land, and we're supporting them in that local effort. And it is the same process that we're using and we have used for previous land assembly projects.
Okay, so, but clearly, as the Deputy Minister, you're watching how this is unfolding in Waterloo Region. The 160 acres that have thus been purchased at almost $100,000 an acre was recently, the corn on that field was recently destroyed at a huge cost. We've learned some lessons from the pandemic around having a reliable food source, around food security, and yet, the region actually had to bring in farmers from outside Waterloo Region because no farmer would ever plow over a viable corn crop just to make a point. They would not do that. And the rumored cost for the destruction of that crop was $370,000. Is the ministry funding the destruction of these crops in Waterloo Region? Yes or no?
Again, so as with any land transaction, the agreement includes with the owner conditions around due diligence, including archaeological work, and to ensure that the parcels are suitable for future work. Archaeological assessments required that we go through that process according to standards, and we understand that the region is working through that work with on that parcel, and due diligence activities like archaeology, like environmental assessments, are standard processes as part of that process.
So this is so time sensitive that the region with the province's support couldn't wait 3 more weeks for the harvesting of this crop. You would have seen the news today. 1 million people, additional people, are visiting food banks in Ontario. I'm trying to get a sense of what your control is with regards to this deal, right? Because the $16 million that have thus been purchased or has been expended, this was not in the budget per se. This is new expenditures. Regardless of the call for a large industrial land assembly in Waterloo Region, this has genuinely caught the community off guard. This is a very engaged democracy in Waterloo Region. They have traditionally a very open and honest and transparent relationship with the regional level of government. To date, and just to remind you, these farmers were actually approached. These farmers were approached even before this land assembly was even rumored, by a developer offering $65,000 an acre. So somebody knew something was going on, right? This doesn't instill confidence. This is not the way government should operate. After that happened, then CanAcre was employed by the region to go to these farmers and offer them $35,000 an acre. And of course, those farmers turned it down. To date, the 160 acres has been purchased at great cost, and this is, as I would remind you, Class 1 farmland. But farmers want to know right now, is this going to continue? Is this bullying of farmers going to continue? And is the province going to continue funding it? Because if I were the government, I would recognize that this is Class 1 farmland that creates great economic value for the entire region and provides great food security. So my question to you, Deputy Minister, is the province going to continue down this road and disrespect farmers in Wilmot Township, because it sends a cooling effect to all farmers across this province?
I would say to you that it's the region who's running the ground game. We are completely reliant on the region to take a responsible and measured approach We are here to support the region. We rely on their local judgment, their local expertise, and their local knowledge, and all of those decisions are made by the region, and they're supported financially by the province for the purchase of the land. But
Okay.
it is completely and utterly up to the region to run the ground game and make those individual
So
decisions.
Mountain Oak
Thank
you very much.
Cheese
That
has said they're not going
concludes
to
the
sell.
time. We now go to the government side, MPP Hogarth.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Ministers and Deputy Minister, for being here today and sharing the work